All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get this panel started in just a second. And this is a catch box. So this is a throwable microphone. When you have questions, Dennis will tell me he's ready for a question. I'll stand up and I'll throw it to you. If you get hit in the face, it's okay. It's soft. It's like Nerf.
I just got hit in the head.
It made him smarter.
I saw that.
Dragoncon app, if you have it, at some point in this panel, go ahead and rate the panel and make sure you rate the moderator.
All right. Well, first off, I'd like to say welcome everybody for taking your time out of this amazing con to come and spend some time with us and have a little bit of story time. I know there's a crazy amount of stuff going on at this con, like constantly. I have like 18 conflicting things on my schedule all the time, trying to decide on what I'm going to do. So we really appreciate everybody coming to check out this particular panel. But before we get started, I want everybody to sort of introduce themselves and say where you're from. So I'm going to start you off at the end of the table with Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Josephsberg. I'm one of the hosts of Polyhedron. I'm from Marietta, Georgia. I live around here. I've been gaming for 16 years now.
And I'm Scott Cuban. I'm also from the Polyhedron podcast. I'm from Marietta, Georgia as well. Been here forever. I can't remember a time before, so that's how memory works.
I am Matthew Malice. I am also the host and producer of Polyhedron. I also live in Marietta, Georgia, which is getting kind of weird that all three of us just happen to be from the same place. But anyways, it's good to be here, and hello.
Usually you're from Marietta.
I am also from Marietta. That was a lie. I'm from Bluffton, South Carolina. I DM the Vicious Mockery podcast. My name is Maximilian. I have a last name, but that's less important. My other players are over there in the audience because we're not cool enough to have everybody in our group at this panel. That's who I am. Thanks.
And I am your moderator, Dennis Robinson, otherwise known as the world's most okayest DM. Thank you again for coming to the Kill Your Darlings and RPG discussion. Now, I don't know about you folks, but I assume if you're fans of RPGs, I love a good story and I love good story time, so we're going to share some of our stories about the topic that we're going to be talking about here, which is letting go of great ideas, whether it be as a player or as a DM. Sometimes you come up with this really elaborate backstory, and then it doesn't matter at all because he dies in 5 seconds or something else. Or the DM doesn't care and kills you off immediately or just never covers it. That's right. So I thought we're going to tell at least one story each, and then I would love to hear some crazy shenanigan stories from the audience if you have any. And then when I, ask for somebody to shout out a story, somebody, probably Charles, will bean you with the talk box.
It only hurts at first.
That's exactly right.
Just the first time.
Yeah. So I would like to start off with a fellow DM, Max. Feel free to tell us a story of how you had to let go of a great idea.
Well, that's great. Thank you for putting me on the spot. I appreciate that. So if any of y'all are at all familiar with my podcast, which I'm going to go ahead and bet the answer is no, you'll know that my players don't do anything the way that makes sense or would progress the plot or make good things happen. So I have a lot of stuff that I prepare for the game. In fact, I'm running a module, if you're unfamiliar, which again, most of you are, is Out of the Abyss. You probably are familiar with that module. And there's a lot of, it's almost more of a plot setting than an actual adventure. And so there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of places, there's a lot of plot thread lines. So it's already written in a way that allows you to pick up and put down things as your players interact with them. But it also sort of anticipates certain rational activities by the players. Like they see a problem, maybe they want to solve it, right? You'd think that's why they're playing D&D. At least it's what a rational person would do. Or they meet an NPC with a sympathetic background or an interesting personality. You might think they would want to find out more about that NPC or help them with their problems or anything like that. But my players don't do that. My players, when they meet an NPC, they find the first way to exploit it or kill it or turn it to their purposes, whatever they happen to be, which can change from moment to moment and game to game. And I have to choose as a DM what I'm going to do about that, right? I can say, okay, well, this is the campaign that we're running. We're running Out of the Abyss, and if it's not in this book, I'm not doing it. And then all of the choices and all the things they did, however insane they may have been, don't matter anymore because I'm running this book regardless of their choices. And then, or I could go the other direction and just say, okay, I've got this book as a platform from which our insanity is going to rocket off of. And then all of your players are on that ship, they're taking off. You don't know where it's going now at this point as much as any of them do. And that, to me, creates a much more interesting game. And that is the way I've approached this game, where I have now a guidebook, a 250-page book that has a lot of ideas, plots, places, and people, but I have no idea when or how I'm going to get into any of them because I'm following what my players' choices are. And that, to me, sort of embodies as a DM what you want to do insofar as letting go of your plots and your plans. I have NPCs that I like. There's one in there, if you're familiar, called your players might be interested in that and try to discover it, or your players might make choices that kill that character off before any of that is even encountered. And if I sort of stomp on their choices to say, no, you made some choices that ended up in that guy's death, but I'm gonna keep him alive anyway, then they feel like their choices don't matter and they're not having fun anymore. And I just have to learn to let go of that plot, because I was gonna do something really cool with but he's dead now, thanks.
He may come back. You never know.
Well, yes, of course.
And death is a thing.
Of course, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Right? Yeah. In D&D, it's like comic books. Death is never permanent, but I have to let go of what I was
It's
going
permanent.
to
You
do.
shut up. It's permanent. Nope.
Your DM may vary.
And your legs don't come back.
Oh yeah, body parts don't come back.
No,
That's for sure.
they
They
do
can be
not come
mechanical.
back.
That would be cool.
Now, Max, you should know already that all D&D players are complete psychopaths. So you should not expect pity or kindness of any type.
Yes, I do know that. I'm used to playing in a gaming store where they at least have some semblance of rationality, and then I started a game with my friends. To what extent that was intelligent?
What's that say
or
about
not.
you?
A lot of really bad things, and they're all true.
So now I'd like to get a perspective from a player and somebody who I'm guessing actually has a lot more different RPG experience other than just D&D. Scott, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I do have something. So a while back, I ran a fairly long-running Exalted campaign. Are people in the audience familiar with Exalted at all?
Nope.
Fantastic. So I don't have to explain 1,000 years of lore. Yeah.
Strap in.
Wait, I don't know.
How long
anything
we
about
got
this.
left?
Strap in.
All right. So it started with the primordials.
Lock the doors.
That's doors.
You're going nowhere.
So, I had set up a scenario where the PCs, who are a collection of different type of Exalted, like there was a couple of Solars, there was a Lunar, there was a Sidereal, and a Dragon Blooded.
It sounds downright wacky. I know.
Yeah, it really is. But they ran into another Solar Exalted, a Twilight Cast, who's like this sort of Sorcerer King. And this Twilight Cast wasn't an evil character, but had a very different perspective about how the world should be run. And I set up this character as sort of a long-running antagonist, someone who was not necessarily going to be fighting the PCs, but going to be an element in their story that was going to cause problems from time to time. And within about 40 minutes of encountering this NPC, my Zenith, which are like the solar priests and like channeling of the unconquered sun, had basically evangelized to this Twilight about how he was completely wrong in his perspective. He called upon the glory of the unconquered sun to wash away his sinful thoughts, and had such a ridiculous role because Exalted. The character became a long-running ally of the campaign. So I had to like scrap an entire subplot because someone had a good come to Jesus moment. And that's the sort of thing that you have to allow. You can't, like, if someone is creative and the dice are with them, sometimes that just becomes more interesting. And honestly, it was more interesting because it gave them more time to fight demons and abyssals and the actual bad guys.
And then you can replace that dude with somebody else if you need to.
Yeah,
if you really
absolutely. Yeah,
That's the exact same backstory, and exact same arc. I mean,
This is the son of such
our
and
choice.
such.
Yes,
His twin brother.
This is Chad the Twilight, not Thad the Twilight.
That.
But anyway, that's my story.
Nice. So I would love an audience story. Does anybody have a story or a question that they'd like to throw out right now? I got to go with the awesome mutton chops over here. I mean,
Oh, okay.
you don't have to throw it super far.
There we go.
Into the box.
So back in the early days of 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, and I mean early days when
Sure.
there were only the 3 basic books,
I found in the Ancient Tomes of Dungeon magazine a great dungeon to run. So I took my wife and my 2 best friends, and they were going to go through this dungeon, but they started infighting. To the point where one of the characters, she's already making excuses, one of the characters contracted pneumonia and was left in the attic of an inn while the other 2 characters abandoned the children, the orphans that were kidnapped, and left the city.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of them
Par for the
died.
course.
Yeah.
They're just going to slow you down.
So I tried again.
Wait.
I attempted
Literally.
again. I ran the game again with different characters, the same players. They ended up setting the forest around the city on fire and killing countless innocents with a wildfire.
You're making space for condominiums and things like that.
Well,
so
at
more
that
people
point,
can come
I
in.
literally took the Dungeon magazine and shredded it in front of them.
They were probably elves. It's fine.
Elves deserve it.
Thank you so much for your story.
Oh, good fantasy racism.
I would like to, Matt. We were having dinner right before the show, sort of discussing how this was going to go. And Matt, were you saying you also had a little bit of DMing experience?
I have GMing and player experience, obviously.
Okay. Well, I'd like to get your input on either or both.
Actually, I got a pretty good story. This is actually fairly recent in my career, so I think this is pertinent to what we're discussing about. So I'm playing in Scott's Amber game that he is developing for some live play and actual play sort of broadcasting. And I'm coming up with this concept named Lachlan. It originally was named Locke. I had this idea 3 years ago when Scott was like, I want to run an Amber game. So I dig deep in the lore, started developing it. If anyone knows anything about Amber, look it up. It's great. Read it. It's good books. Quick reads. So I'm making this character, and originally he was going to be the incestuous son of Corwin and Deidre.
Sick.
Yeah, I know I am.
Why did it have to be?
But as his game was actually developing, the one we're actually going to broadcast, I started writing up his backstory and really getting more into the character, and I realized I needed to switch things. The backstory was becoming too overwrought, too much, and there was too much melodrama, even if that's such a thing for Amber, I don't know. But what I did was, after I knew what the character was going to actually be, I went back to the backstory and started writing, and I was going to tweak a few things, just like a sentence here, a sentence there. Then I realized within 5 minutes, I got to write the whole thing over again. This was me getting out of my way and realizing what the character actually was in my head. Things just started clicking for the character after that point. And that's kind of my story of sometimes you just got to get out of your own way and just kind of let things go with your character. You're like, oh, that was really cool. That's a cool idea. It ended up being not incestuous child of Deidre and Corwin, and I went a different direction, a little more easy to handle, as it were.
Shucks.
It wasn't going to be that. I was going to mess with his memories because that's just gross.
But that actually brings up another good point. That one of the big barriers that can come up with in coming up with new ideas or scrapping your old ideas is that it's a lot of work, and you worked really hard on that, and now that time is just lit on fire.
Yes.
And what I do to remind myself that that's okay is that I remind myself that every single second I spend playing D&D is time lit on fire. There's literally no point to any of this.
Yep. That's great.
That
I love
actually
it.
keys into a bit of advice I gave Matthew a really long time ago in an Aberrant game that we were running, and it can be summed up pretty simply. Don't play the character concept. Play the character.
Sure.
Let what happens in play inform the character more than the 5 pages you wrote, because that's more important. That's more vital.
That's what people see.
Yeah.
That's what's on the TV.
Yeah, it's on the screen.
That
Yep.
actually kind of leads into what I was going to do. All right.
Oh, okay. Well, so I was going to actually jump back to the audience. I know I saw a couple hands before. So who had the awesome hat?
Yep.
Yeah, Chopper.
Chuck it.
Check it.
There you go.
Almost.
Dr. Chopper.
Basketball pass, Charles. Basketball
Fastball
pass.
pass.
Sports ball.
Super sport.
What's your name?
Oh,
Bring it up.
Mic
bring
to
it
the
up.
face.
Bring
Speak
it up.
into the
No,
cube.
no,
It's
bring
actually a
the mic.
microphone.
it's a
Yeah, there you
microphone.
go.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool.
I have a question, more so because I know that you guys are really experienced. I run a D&D event planning group for breweries in Richmond, Virginia, which is
Oh, that's
really
pretty
great.
close.
It's really created kind of low bar of entry, and 20% of our players have the first time ever playing any role-playing game. So that's been really great.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Transmit the virus. It needs
That's right.
That's right.
Spread the disease.
It's very
It's so
transmittable.
easy.
Smear it all
So-
over. What?
The one thing that I'm running into that might be a unique problem, but I really wanted to get kind of y'all's ideas and opinions on it, is I will create campaigns, and because we'll have sometimes even up to 70 or 80 people, which is 8, 9 tables that we're running, we have to be aware that whatever campaign we create is going to be solved really realistically 8 or 9 different ways. But we still need some sort of like overarching continuity. So we do write like our whole kind of campaign beforehand. But then every now and again, as you guys are well aware, something crazy happens at 1 or 2 of those tables that kind of like ruins what would be the consistency across the campaign. And I don't want to make it to where I'm dismissing those players' efforts, because those are real characters and those are real stories, and those a lot of times are really unique and creative stories. But at the same time, I can't say that the 7 other tables who are, reoccurring people won't be able to see. And sometimes I try to get really creative and figure out ways that I can incorporate that in. But is this something that maybe any of y'all have run into during y'all?
I was actually just talking about this before we came out here. When you run a pre-written campaign, if you're not writing it yourself, they'll have a few scenarios sometimes. Not sometimes just one. Sometimes they'll have a few ways that the players might decide to solve this problem, and they'll give you ways to run that. But of course, the players might not use those ways, as you were saying. So what I do personally is I take the DCs for whatever their suggestions are, and I pull them out of the framework that they've created, and I leave those numbers on their own. And then whatever the player decides to do, that's the DC for that. I don't care what it is, because really what they're doing is overcoming a problem through using skills that their character is good at. And if they want to use what their character is good at, so you let them, and you just make the DC whatever the appropriate hardness is supposed to be as a barrier to progress.
Right.
So the specifics are less important than just saying, yeah, sure, you totally did that triple backflip because you did that DC. All that matters is that you beat what was on that piece of paper.
And if you want to solve it in a more narrative way, I mean, here's a suggestion. Say that there's some weird chaos god that's messing around with like causality, and maybe something different did happen in a slightly different timeline, and you can weave that into the ongoing narrative.
Yeah, like
such that two different people had a different recollection of what actually happened, and make it a plot point.
And then I deal with it 2 different ways. Before when I had way too much time on my hands, I would write out, like if they were going into a city, I'd write like 30 different encounters that might happen, and they would hit 3 of them. And then, I'll save the rest for later, for another time. But then as time went on, now it's just mostly improv.
Follow Awesome's razor.
Yeah.
Whatever's coolest.
Whatever's coolest.
Yeah. Develop a very, very intricate, complex meta-narrative.
Or Murphy's Law. It's also the one too.
Everything that can go wrong will.
Yep, exactly. It always does go wrong.
That's one of the other things you have to learn to give up to as an experienced player or DM, is that you're not going to play with people who have experience or know what they're doing or even really care to learn.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple reasons people play D&D, and one of them, which is huge, is the social aspect. People just want to hang out with their friends and play a game.
Yeah, eat
and
Cheetos,
they don't want to
drink.
read. They don't want to read a 200-page book to do that. All 3 of my players are like that, and I beat them regularly for this attitude. But if I want to play this game with them, which I do, unfortunately for me, I have to allow them to be that kind of person, and that's. You just give up that sort of like hope that you're going to play this perfect game, because it ain't ever going to happen.
Yeah. Well, does anybody in the audience have a question or a story they'd like to share?
I think this guy had the mic.
Oh, he's functionary.
He's a volunteer.
Oh, fair enough.
We'll go with
your choice.
never mind.
It's already been
Yeah, that works.
chosen.
Right there.
One.
Hello.
Hello.
Canon now.
It's canon.
One
too
mic
bad.
and a Hufflepunk.
Oh yeah. So I actually run a.
Hold it up closer. There you
Sorry, I speak low.
That's okay.
I run D&D sometimes with 2 of those. Hi guys.
What are
She
they
needs
actually?
those. I suck.
Oh, I don't know. I still don't know.
And this one.
All right.
And just talking about what was it, chaotic stupid. That it seems to sometimes be a rogue thing, because the rogue of our party, which I should have known he was going to do this, because he gave a primordial goddess a hug. Is I had made a one-off like merchant. I do kind of my own like universe for D&D, because I looked at all of the like Forgotten Realms, and I was like, I don't have time to memorize all that, so I'm gonna make it up as I go.
No one ever has.
And so I had made this. He had no like 2 lines of a backstory and like stuff to sell, and of course our rogue is like, he's really interesting. I want to follow him.
Wait, is that Turin?
Okay, yeah, it's Turin.
You didn't mean for him to join us?
No. I made all that shit up after. Tiny character is now an attaché to their party that travels with them everywhere because our rogue decided to go follow the merchant, see where he was going.
Sure. Yeah.
You as a player have to give up some of the things that you think are good.
It's a it's a team activity. You're all, and you're not, and it's not a competitive team activity. You have to figure out if what you're doing is making everyone else unhappy, player or DM, cut it out. Doesn't matter how realistic or how like your character it is. Nobody wants it to happen, so stop doing it.
We call it the Gamers
yourself.
Nuremberg.
Yeah, or if you're not liking it, just stop. You don't have any connection. Like I said, it's all a waste of time anyway. So just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, we call it the Gamers Nuremberg defense.
Yeah.
I was just doing what mein character concept.
Right.
thus.
Yeah.
I demanded that you see.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you threw me in a pit and covered me in lye. I'm not happy with you. But it was what Elfdorf would do.
You
made
cut
up a
that body
silly
part
meme
off
song.
yourself.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's not an acceptable excuse.
Any questions? Ooh, one all the way in the back.
Mike 'em.
Oh wait, we have. Go long. Hello. Next panel is
I
how
like
to
how
throw
we're
the
waking up
cube.
the audience by throwing things at them.
Hey guys, so yeah, following up on what you were discussing, I absolutely agree. We create a character in our heads, and we have this idea that they are kind, gentle, or just a complete badass, or a heartless bastard, or an agent of chaos. What we also forget is that we're not playing in a vacuum. So even where we ricochet off what the players can do, it's also no character, I think, fully survives the first encounter with other characters. It's how your party dynamic even works. I've had characters that I fully intended to be sweet and gentle and understanding, and they've run across the mayhem that is the rest of the party, and we've sort of had to ratchet that up to a very, very no-nonsense sort of, no, we're all gonna survive because I'm not gonna let you do it.
A thought that I just had regarding that is like maybe an idea doesn't work like when it encounters the player, but that's something that if you still want to sort of experience that, you can talk to your DM or your GM about it and say like, hey, I'd really like to explore this aspect of my character that doesn't get a lot of play, and you can collaborate, say like, let's engineer a situation or a scene or even maybe a flashback where this side of the character can come out and I can see how that works and see how I might be able to bring it out in normal play.
Well, real people are multifaceted. They act different in different situations.
And it all depends on your play group. Like I think that's probably one of the hardest things about D&D in general is finding a group of people that mesh correctly with you, because if you're somebody who likes loosey-goosey, you don't want to play with a bunch of people that are going to stop every 2 seconds to check the book for the rules. Like it's just not going to work. You basically have to find a group that works well for you, or else it won't be fun for anybody.
There's a reason I end the tag of Polyhedron with "Go where your fun is," because that's sort of the policy that I have for anyone. Because you could have the loosey-goosey guy. It's like he needs to be in a loosey-goosey group. Yep. The rules guys need to be in a rules group because they're going to get along. Because role-playing, as we've said, is a social dynamic situation, and I have seen tables where people just got, like in college, this happened a lot with me. People we just play because we were bored and we just had the people together, but we out of play really didn't get along too well, and when we played, it suffered severely. We had huge fights in and out of game, and that gets really weird. If anyone's ever been a part of that kind of drama.
That's where the darling becomes the game itself.
And
you just have to end it.
Be ready to leave a game for sure.
Is there another person in the audience that has? Dilly. Yes.
All right, I got a story that leads into a question. So, was running a campaign, and we hit a really cool point in the story where the player characters had learned that everything they knew was a lie, and they were made in a lab. And so they were going through this existential crisis. At which point, one of them, in true character, he pissed off he angered one of the demigods in the campaign. And realistically, I thought, okay, he should die now. He's made a terrible enemy. So I guess my question is, what do you do when your darlings are your player characters?
There are worse fates than death.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there could be a terrible curse. There could be,
Body mutilation.
Take limbs.
Oh, yeah.
All their loved ones could be horribly
limbs.
murdered.
Does he have any NPCs that he cares about or has particular feelings?
Yeah, he did.
Because I think you know what to do then.
Is it
So
it's Dungeons and
is this a
Dragons.
plot issue here where you've got these PCs that are all intricately tied to this plot, and if one of them dies, the new character won't have those ties anymore?
Yes.
So what I do in those situations is I use this as an opportunity to do some creative storytelling or improvisation where now I have to introduce a new element to this plot, right, that didn't exist before. I had no plan for it. I have to do it. So now I get to be creative again, whereas before I was just sort of playing out things as they went and I did all my creative work beforehand. I see it as an opportunity. Again, yeah, all that work I might have gone in with that first plot now is gone, but now I get an opportunity to write a whole new one, and that's the whole reason I'm doing this in the first place.
And actually, you need to examine that. I think I may be a little harsher about this, is the darling may not be the players, it may be your plot line. Think about that, because if your plot line needs these PCs to do their thing, you're putting too much pressure on them.
And it's bound to fail.
Because they may have not earned that. You may be like, oh, it'll be a great narrative and they'll have a great time. They may not have a great time because they know they're safe. And from what I've ever learned about being a GM is most players, and this doesn't work for everyone, want to be John McClane. Beat the crap out of them. They want to walk over glass, but in the end, they kill the terrorists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They win, but they need to feel like they earn it. And if you're putting too much on them and like they're too critical for your plot line, that may be the issue. I'm not saying it is. I don't know all the details, but I'm just saying you examine it and look at it. Also, fate worse than death. Death is easy in a role-playing game. People will just, make a new character. No.
It makes you seem brilliant as a DM if your players are like, oh man, I bet there's a problem here. You're like, yeah. It's totally a problem.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a story or a question they'd like to share?
Oh my.
You right there, you raised your hand first.
So I've been doing D&D for about 8 years. I've been a DM for about 6 of those. My very first campaign was an evil campaign. Yeah, right? And
That went over fabulously.
Did you say evil or emo?
a little bit of both. It was our
dear
first
Lord.
time playing D&D, so we played D&D the first time. You're like, oh, I'm gonna make this very super serious character. And then,
Oh man,
It was
that's
Spider-Man
chemical
3.
romance and everything.
Everyone's drunk, and they're like, oh, we had a bard called Swift Taylor, and, and it was pretty beautiful all around. I don't remember a lot of it, so we did that, and that lasted about a year and a half or so, and then ever since then we played normal campaigns, things like this. Just recently, I've stopped DMing and start being a player again, and we have a relatively experienced group, and we're doing an evil campaign again. With a completely different group of people. Where it started off as like, yeah, we're good people, and then this guy right here, Drew, who's our DM, was like, yeah, this is probably going to be evil campaign because y'all are just like murdering people left and right. So we're like, we just embrace it, like, yeah, evil campaign. My question is do you find it easier or more difficult based on alignment to kill your darlings in a sense of, hey, if we're running an evil campaign, we have a little more leeway. Like, if they murder some people or something, things like that, you're like, oh, well, then we can do this nefarious plot. Or is it more difficult because you're like, oh, well, that guy was supposed to give him the quest, and, now I just got to make something up on the spot, and essentially D&D jazz, just kind of improv it.
I never have a problem killing the characters.
Yeah.
So evil, good makes no difference to me. But I would say that if you're trying to make it make sense in a story, evil probably be easier to kill just because if you incorporate some sort of law, or maybe there's bounty hunters that you can, like, they keep making themselves more well known as terrible people. Okay, well now there's a bounty on their heads, like maybe some small town that they butchered the children in or whatever they're like.
I don't think there's any reason why an evil campaign should be any harder, because to me a lot of the troubles that come with killing your darlings is that you get attached to them and their plot points and their people that you get attached to that you think are great, and that can happen whether they're good people or bad people. In fact, some of my favorite characters are evil people, and they always die because that's the whole point of the thing, is to kill them off pretty much. To me it doesn't make a real difference alignment wise.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I don't touch D20s, so.
Oh, that's true.
I've never walked into an evil game expecting to walk out the other side. I'll put it that way.
Blue hat.
Yep, blue hat.
He's been waiting a while.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, so just a story about a darling. My characters got done killing the Jabberwocky or whatever, and they went back to town, and two of the characters decided that they were going to go on a date. And instead of, letting everyone else kind of decide what they were going to do, they were like, oh, we're going to go see a play, we want to see a play, and eventually, in frustrated GM fashion, I pulled up the script for a play and made all of my players read parts.
That's beautifully vindictive.
Well done.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But what I realized was one of the players was not exactly having as much fun being forced to read from a script. So it's just kind of, while it was fun for probably 90% of the group, you also need to be careful of those, people who are like, okay, this really wasn't my cup of tea.
Sure.
Yeah. As a DM, your fun generally comes from the fun of your players and sort of being creative, but you are not the omnipotent puppet master. That's kind of not really your job.
Yeah, you are.
If you want to do that, as people say, oh, okay, fine.
No, you're right.
So you may want to think about writing fiction, as some people have suggested already.
I actually wrote this character that I played with a group of people. He started off as this bleeding heart paladin protector, goody two shoes. But I gave my GM a little bit more control over it because I gave him this flaw where I had no control over his switching into just this heartless monster anti-paladin. And I wrote into his backstory that for some reason he had this psychic break and kind of gave him control over what that would be and gave him control over when it would happen. And slowly over the course of the sessions, the players kind of caught wise to the fact that all of a sudden I'd start being a big jerk. And so one time they just had to essentially knock me out, and I came to and I was all tied up, and instead of just outright killing me, the party said, all right, we're gonna help you.
Oh no.
So, just a bunch of botched rolls later, I stayed in evil mode. And party went off to go help stop this riot that's going on. And I trail in behind, and of course I'm saying, ooh, riot. And of course that led me into a confrontation with the party. And they tried to appeal to my character again, tried to use all these different things from my background to try and really appeal to it. And we'd all kind of gotten emotionally invested in the situation. And slowly but surely over the course of these botched rolls, I realized, oh God, this character has to die. And we had this big epic battle, and they knock me out, and they finally get it in here, and then one of the characters tells the constable, he's like, so all this destruction, what happened? And we're like, yeah, it was him. So the constable just unceremoniously comes up and just stabs him in the head.
Just threw you right under the bus, huh?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is a perfect story.
Yeah, that's a perfect story of how that's supposed to go. That kind of PvP, it builds up over time, and that's because of what the players choose to do and how they choose to react.
Also, poor luck.
I really also poor luck. What it was, and there was this NPC trying to help me figure out what it was that really did it, and I was really excited to see what happened, but I just realized, he had to die.
Yeah,
that's just the way it goes, and you got to roll with it.
Yeah, sometimes it just clicks in your head.
We have time for one quick story or question. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
I've talked enough.
I'll just stay standing. Hi, guys. So I run a Monster of the Week game because I had never run any kind of game in my life, and 2d6 is a lot easier to handle. I had written a lot of fiction in my life, and so I did go into this with sort of that, okay, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, they're going to do this. I was not prepared for this one character that one of my players created by the name of Pyrus, who is, I can't say these words if I can't curse. Ask this, is demon jizz a curse?
We're giving you bad advice, I guess.
He's demon jizz. He pours vodka inside of his chest, which he can do. His chest is apparently something he can pull that out of. He just ruins people's rolls for really no reason because he can do this thing where he hexes people, and just just sometimes he helps them, sometimes he screws them over. And my personal favorite is he can summon a monster to help him instead of summoning like a werewolf or something that I would assume he would do. He summoned a human-sized foot with a head on the ankle that looks like Moby. He named it Cankelsaurus Rex. All of this.
I'm sorry, what was that name again?
Yeah, write this down.
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
Cankelsaurus Rex.
Cankelsaurus.
Cankelsaurus.
The thing is, there's actually a Japanese foot demon that
Cankelsaurus
resembles
Rex.
this, which none of us knew till afterwards. But anyway, all of this is good and fun and hilarious and whatnot. But my question is there a point where the rules of improv, where like the yes and just start to become detrimental to
Yes.
the rest of the campaign?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When was the
Fun
last
is
time anything
paramount.
important
If your
happened?
players are having fun, if you're having
Yeah.
fun, that's all that matters. If his improv is ruining the fun, put a stop to it.
And that
immediately.
includes the GM in that too. If the GM's like, I wanted a serious game, this is what I want to do, and they start being way too like whimsical about it, you may need to have a conversation with that player about the situation, because a lot of this is expectation management. Like that is a lot of what gaming and GMing playing is what do people expect? That doesn't mean you can't defy those expectations from time to time, just you need to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it goes down to like, when you sit down at the table, you kind of have a social contract of this is what we're here to do, this is kind of the way we're going to do it. And if someone keeps bucking that, then you got to manage that. Like it's got to come down to something.
So we're going to wrap up real quick. So I basically want each person to say where they can find.
You don't want to follow me on Twitter or anything, but you'll want to follow Vicious Mockery on Twitter, Podcast Addict, anything like that.
You can find me at World's Most Okayest DM on Twitter. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out.
Thanks.
You guys were a great crowd and audience. Hopefully you had a lovely time. If you could go on the app and give us a 5-star review, let everybody know if I was any decent or terrible at being the moderator, that'd be great as well. But again, I just want to say thank you to everybody. And if you want to come up afterwards and just have a chat with us, that's totally fine too. So.
Yeah.